Hello, this is my big brother Sharif Sayed, and he got accepted into medical school all because of a pair of Nikes.
That's right, and this is my brother Sharif Sayed, who's an executive VP, all because of a pair of Nikes.
That's true, and I don't possess any MBA or fancy MBA degree.
And I assure you, it wasn't because I spent hours on in a research lab trying to discover a new gene.
Surprisingly, it wasn't his charm or my good looks. It was all because of a pair of Nikes that we wore in elementary school. We grew up in a 2-bedroom house with 7 total siblings. I know that sounds rough, but having a bunch of siblings to take care of each other really was a blessing, especially after we lost our mother. When we were young, Sam and I were just toddlers. Our oldest sister, Dayna, she had the added responsibility to be our primary caretaker. She had a powerful light that she allowed to shine brightly and unapologetically. She was a natural nurturer with a huge heart. Dayna was a protector, and she took care of everyone in our family and many people in our neighborhood as well. And Dayna was also notorious for skipping school. She was also adamant about Sam and I attending school every day.
You see, Dayna saw a confidence in us that we didn't see in ourselves. So school was a dreaded and unnecessary task for Sharif and I. And frankly, it was a constant reminder of our inadequacy. We already had to share things like a bed.
We shared a couch, not a bed.
Right, we had to share a couch. But now you're asking us to go to school where kids were gonna find out that we had to share clothes too. Every day felt like a struggle. I'd get up upset because my clothes were dirty because Sharif had worn them the day.
Those were my clothes that you wore.
Our clothes were dirty because we had worn them the day before. The point is that we didn't have the confidence that we needed to go to school and solve for X or read with any type of imagination. Still, Dayna knew that for low-income students and minority students such as ourselves, that education was the key to upwards mobility.
That's right, and when we speak about education inequities, what are some of the first things that come to mind?
Most definitely not Jordans.
Right, most people are thinking disparities in funding or unequal distribution of teaching specialists, lack of technology, or the location of the school. But that's not what kids think about. That surely wasn't what you and I were thinking about. Although all those reasons are very important, rarely do anybody think of the disadvantages that persist long before a child even walks out that house to go to school. You see, our failure in school didn't start at school. It started at home, and we're woven into the fabrics of our belief in our abilities. We didn't feel good about ourselves walking out the door, and our performance at school reflected that.
So going into 5th grade, 4th grade respectively, Dayna gets a summer job. And without us knowing, she saves up enough money to buy us our first pair of Nike shoes shortly before school started. So that small act of kindness had transformative effects on both of us. All of a sudden we had a pair of shoes that we looked forward to wearing proudly, a pair of shoes that made us excited to go to school, a pair of shoes that made us feel good before we walked out the door. So with a positive outlook brought positive results. We began doing better in school. More importantly, if we failed, we didn't give up. And even our behavior improved tremendously. The shoes gave us the confidence that we needed to discover our own light, one that shined brightly over an passionate interest in serving the people that need it the most.
I know what you have to be thinking. How can a pair of shoes have that type of effect on educational outcomes? That's an excellent question, and one that we are actively seeking to answer definitively, as Sam is conducting his own research throughout his time in medical school. But maybe we don't need to wait for Big Bro's conclusion of his research. Maybe the answer is already in front of us. If you're a believer of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then you know that self-actualization can be disrupted when basic needs such as love, belonging, or self-esteem are not met. Or maybe you follow Jean Piaget's philosophy, so you know that a child's intellectual development is a direct result of how that child views the world around him. Or maybe you're like me and you follow Deion Sanders on Twitter. And you know if you look good, you feel good. And if you feel good, you play good. And if you play good, you
get paid good.
Nailed it. That's right. Regardless of who you follow philosophically or on Twitter, we can all look back at what it felt like to put on that brand new pair of shoes that we were proud to put on. What a wonderful feeling it was. But it's a feeling that some elementary students never get to experience.
So about 8 months after Dayna buys us these shoes, she was the victim of a drive-by shooting in our community. In a moment's time, the backbone of our family, the larger-than-life personality that relied so heavily upon, was gone. She was 16 years old. But damn, she might as well have lived to 100, because that's the impact she left not only on us, but on our community. To honor Dayna in 2018, Sharif and I co-founded Dayna's Footprints, a nonprofit dedicated to combating learning inequities by providing students the opportunity to select any shoe off the shelf of a local shoe store, subsequently increasing students' self-esteem and their enthusiasm for attending school. Today, with the help of my friends and colleague at TCU and UNT Health Science Center School of Medicine, Dayna's Footprints have expanded into 5 at-risk communities in the DFW Metroplex, and we're proud to say that we've helped over 160 students this year alone.
But that's not enough. We stand here before you because we know that our story is only a small part of a larger and broader narrative. A rise in national attention to structural violence has brought about conversation on what needs to be done to rectify social injustices.
Take notice of the term Sharif used, structural violence, not structural risk or structural inequities, structural violence. Violence because 1, we know it exists, and violence because 2, we can do something about it.
So what do we do about it? How about we begin with the kids? The children we help don't choose to be placed in disadvantages. They were born into them.
But one of the most important things we have learned in our life is that the initial circumstances of an individual are not as important as the ability of that individual to adapt and rise to adversity. The latter is often a matter of confidence. We need your help instilling confidence in these communities, and it doesn't have to be with shoes. It could be through mentorship or by investing in the innovation of education that considers the disadvantages of these students, or by helping to ensure that participating in youth sports is free. The ways you can help are endless, sadly, because the needs in these communities are as well.
And although the shoes we buy for students will someday wear down, we hope that the feeling inside them resonate forever, like it did Sam and me.
Dayna left big shoes to fill, and we intend on filling them, one child at a time. Thank you.
Thank you.